Sync. Hello everybody on the internet. How are we doing? I know I've been relatively inactive on this channel and in music, but all of that's going to change now because I'm in a studio! Well, I'm in a shed, but I turn it into a studio, kind of. But the important bit is it's secluded, it's away from any houses, I can be as loud as I like, I make music whenever the hell I want. So I'm going to be way more productive on this channel, and hopefully with music as well. And if you want to know what the studio kind of looks like and the feel of it, follow me on Twitter because I posted a video from my Snapchat on there. I guess you can follow me on Snapchat as well. Anyway, let's get right into it. Oh boy, this is the second time recording this tutorial because I forgot to record the audio. Anyway, so here's the general way in which I do my chord stacks. I do them a little bit different every time. I use different leads, different harmonies and all that, but this is like the general way that I do it. First you got the sub bass, is the patch for the sub bass. It's basically just the main sine wave and then an octave higher. And a little bit of distortion and some EQing as well. And I've got good old sausage fattener, which is something embarrassingly I use more than I probably should. Pro Q, taking down all the high end in this because there's a lot of resonance going on in there. And then a fruity limiter to keep everything under control. So that's generally how my sub bass always is. And on top of the sub bass, I like to use a hard bass. This is one I generally like to use for house stuff. This is what the patch looks like. If you want to take a good old look at that, see how that's all done. Got a bit of classic tube doing this as well. And the voweling's coming from here and the frequency shifter. Of course on the mixer I take out a lot of the sub bass and 100Hz scoop. I don't like having a lot of low end crap. And I've got wow filter on band reject and vowel mode, AE, pretty generic. And I have the envelope follower going, so it kind of vowels it a bit more. And then if you've got FL, just slap a sound goodizer on it just because it makes it sound good. Because sometimes you don't always have to use the super technical, quote unquote professional stuff. You can just use whatever sounds good. That's them together. I'd probably say it's quite important that you have a restart via gate on as well. And unisono on 4. The next thing is the detuned massive patch. This. That's built of a DG growing 1, this down all the way, this up all the way, and then I've just got standard square wave 1, square wave 1, up, 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 all the way and all of them. And this growing literally just adds like a mid-range hardness. And then on envelope 2 we've got this going on, and I've put it onto a scream filter in case I want to turn it into a pluck. And I've got it on the white noise as well, just so it has a bit of a nice high-end stamp. And yeah, I've detuned the middle one by 14s because it sounds nice. Detuning this middle one is what really makes the patch sound good. I've also got the voicing on, unisono on 10, pan position kind of here-ish. I've had a little bit of detune on here as well. And then I've got reverb with the settings like this. About a quarter of the way, halfway up, a little bit more up. And delay, we've got 416, 216 on, I believe it's delay sync, dry wet up a little bit like that, and I just left these two alone. On the EQ, we've got the low shelf going up a little bit more, boost going up a little bit more, frequency down quite a bit, and high shelf just up a little bit more. And also I've got hard clipper on as well. And that's pretty much how this patch is done. And then there's just some specific EQing. I like to use Pro Q, and I almost always use the mid-side feature on pretty much everything. But on this specific patch, I actually like to raise around the muddy frequencies, just because it sounds good on this patch specifically, like the detuned one. You can see I mostly cut frequencies, because I said in my mastering tutorial, cutting will boost the frequency next to it instead of boosting. It's just a better way of doing it. I very rarely boost. Unless it's experimental sound design, then I boost. But when it comes to mixing, actually a good little tip for mixing, and yes, I have a sausage fattener on there. But good thing for sound design and mixing, if you want to do it nicely, you'll have like the crazy whatever you want sound design EQ that makes the patch sound good, and then underneath it always have the corrective one that makes it work better in the mix. And if you don't want to use sausage fattener, I guess the more quote unquote professional way of showing you is how to actually compress it properly. And I like to use Pro C. I like all the Fab Filter stuff. I like to have that on that one, have the threshold quite low, like about there, turn the input up a little bit, give it a little bit of attack and a little bit more release, increase the output a bit. And that gives it quite a nice fat sound, but again I just prefer the way sausage fattener sounds. Also a little tip for this massive patch, if you don't want the reverb to carry on but you like the patch with reverb, say you're doing a drop and you've got a lot of bass sound design, you don't want reverb butting in, if you will. A cool little thing I like to do is to actually get envelope 4, put it on the reverb, and then just turn the dry wet down all the way and have this up wherever you had it. And now, as soon as you let go, the reverb cuts out, but when the patch is playing, the reverb is playing. Do the same with the delay if you want to. So now it sounds really reverby and full, but as soon as you let go of it, it's completely dead silent. Then we move on to the Harmer patch. Yes, I have Camel Crusher because that specifically sounds good on this patch. For the sake of making this tutorial a bit more educational, I'll show you how to compress with Fruity Limiter. Similar thing to Pro C, turn the threshold down, crank the ratio up. For this you get a bit more visual representation of what's going on. I feel like this looks better. I have a bit of attack, take away the release. If taking away the release makes it clip a little bit too much, I like to turn this up. It kind of avoids distortion, but I quite like distortion on this patch anyway. But I just like to put Camel Crusher on there. And the patch is very easy to make, the clean saws patch. I'll actually just do this one from scratch. All you need to do is put this up to 2, put that up all the way, turn that down to about nearly the bottom, go to the effects, put log distortion on, up all the way and down almost all the way, and then that's the patch. Really simple to make. And this is what all 3 of these sound like together. Another little tip as well is with the chords, if you're layering chords with other chords, have the piano roll be a little bit different so there's space between them. As you can see, the detuned one, there's a lot going on, a lot of extra harmonies put in. And on the Harmor patch, it's a lot more simple. Sometimes I also like to take the bass patch out of one of them. Let's say if this is in a different key and it's a lot lower key, then I'll take the bass notes out of one of them, but have the bass note in the other one, which means there's a lot less low end mud going on, and sometimes that can make the actual mix itself better. Because there's more to mixing than just mixing, it's also the choice of sound you have. Because this is in quite a high key, I can get away with having the sub bass notes in there. Oh yeah, and I EQ'd it like this, took away a lot of stereo. Took away quite a bit more of this range because the detuned patch takes up a bit of this and I don't want them to conflict. And this one raises a bit of the mid where the other one takes it down because I'm kind of fitting it like a puzzle. Again, mid side, always use mid side on pretty much everything. Then we go to the leads, and usually I have about 3 or 4 leads harmonizing with each other. The harmonies in this one aren't too great, but I put these chords together quite quickly. But I like to have 3x oscillator. Usually I have more than one, but for this I've just got one. The patch looks like this. And I like to put a phaser on it. I put this phaser on quite a lot of things. The drier the signal, the more this phaser really you notice what it's doing. If I get rid of all of the detuning in this, without the phaser, with the phaser. And of course with the 3x oscillator you definitely need to take out a lot of the low end because it just loves to add it in. You can probably hear it. If you go pre-post you'll see just how much I've taken out. And for the reverb I put Tor reverb on, which has got to be one of my favourite reverbs. I definitely recommend you get it if you haven't already got it. It basically works and sounds quite similar to the Nexus reverb, like in the synth Nexus. Like it's got the modulation which makes a huge difference to the sound and it just sounds really nice. And that's how that lead's done. Yeah, this one's not harmonizing, it's just highlighting the top notes on the chords. And these 2 are the harmony ones. This is like the main one and the lead that I like to use the most because it has the strongest fundamental. Probably recognize that one. We'll look at this one real quick. Obviously EQing, not mid-side this time. What the patch looks like. I'll just let you have a little quick look at that. Really like this patch. Sometimes I have it as the main one, but for this I kind of just buried it with the other ones. You can see I just harmonized it. And then you've got the massive patch, which is the lead that I love using the most. I'm not going to show that one. And you see the EQing is almost next to nothing other than taking the sub out, because obviously we want everything out of the sub except for the kick and the sub. But yeah, the EQing is very simple on that because it's quite decent on its own. Now, I usually use this one for the notes that I want highlighted the most within the lead. But I usually have 3 to 4 leads harmonizing, and they're usually a little bit better than this. And that really helps with actually making the chords sound a lot fatter. And this is what they all sound like together. So yeah, that's generally the way that I like to do chord stacks. To be honest, I usually differ it most of the time, but the 2 things I almost always have is the and the. Them 2 usually stay there. I might vary the 3x oscillator patch sometimes. And also for the detuned patch, I like to vary that one as well. Maybe use different synths and stuff for that. But I almost always use this for the clean saws. Also, I quickly just chucked a Vengeance loop in so you guys can hear what it sounds like in context. God, that is a crap Vengeance loop. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Hopefully it wasn't too rushed because obviously I already recorded this and I didn't want to do the whole like length of it again, so I did it a little bit quicker. Oh yeah, follow me on Twitch by the way. I stream as often as I can, but still not very often. But yes, thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.